Hey everybody, welcome back. Mike from Spectre Comics. It is my first video of 2022, so welcome back. Happy New Year. Today we're going to talk about Boba Fett. The book of Boba Fett has just come out, and I'm going to be drawing Boba Fett, and we're going to be talking about the show. The first 3 episodes have aired at the time that I'm recording this video, so we're going to talk about that. And then, so I'm going to actually split this video into 2 parts. The first part is going to be talking about the show and my thoughts on it and go through some of the episodes. There will be spoilers, so be careful if you haven't seen the episodes. The second half of the video, I'll talk about the drawing and the process I used for doing that. Let's talk about the show. Now, let's go all the way back to the end of Mandalorian Season 2. Now, we obviously know that Boba Fett showed up in a couple of the episodes in the Mandalorian Season 2. He retrieved his armor from Mando. He helped rescue Grogu, and then he disappeared with Fennec Shand before the end of the finale. But there was a post-credits scene which was setting up the premise for the book of Boba Fett, where he returned to Tatooine, went to Jabba's palace. Bib Fortuna, a much fatter, older Bib Fortuna, had taken over from Jabba after Jabba was killed in Return of the Jedi. Boba Fett essentially took out the Twi'lek, pulled him off the throne, and assumed Jabba's old crime empire. So that was the premise of the book of Boba Fett. Now, the show is interesting in that it flashes back and forth between 2 periods of time. One, right when he escaped the Sarlacc pit, so we get to see the escape. You know, it's been rumored for years that he escaped the Sarlacc. Obviously, Mandalorian basically revealed that he did eventually escape. We see the whole story of his escape and what happened to him then. And the other time period is basically when he took over Jabba's crime empire, and now he is the crime lord of that territory. So let's talk about his escape. It actually was interesting to see how he escaped. We actually got to see him falling into the Sarlacc pit, sitting in the stomach. So the show finally answered the question of how Boba Fett escaped the Sarlacc pit instead of slowly being digested over 1,000 years. We do actually see him in the belly of the Sarlacc. If you've never seen the inside of a Sarlacc, spoiler alert, it's kind of slimy. So we do see him escape. So he basically uses his flamethrower gauntlets to burn a hole through the side of the Sarlacc's stomach. And then I'm guessing he was about 40 feet under the sand. He somehow, without suffocating, is able to climb his way through the sand, emerge on the side of the pit, collapses from exhaustion after he climbs out. Unfortunately, right then, a band of Jawas shows up, steals all his armor, all his weapons. He has no energy to fight back. He's basically dehydrated, exhausted, probably didn't have much air down there. He's just laying there in the desert with his, I guess, his undergarments on. The Jawas go away, and the next thing you know, a band of Tuskens comes and brings him, revives him, gives him some water, but then takes him prisoner. So now he goes back with the band of Tuskens, and now he is their prisoner, tied up, and we don't know what's going to happen to him. So that sequence, the flashbacks to when he got out of the pit and when he became a prisoner of the Tuskens, starts a whole sequence of events of how he's taken prisoner by the Tuskens, how he kind of befriends them, how he gets accepted in their tribe, and how he kind of learns their ways. He even learns how to communicate with them. He trains with them on how to fight with a gaffy stick. He even earns the ability to get his own gaffy stick. So he actually forms a bond with the tribe and is accepted in part of him, and he actually goes about helping him. Now, one thing that this show does, though, is it demystifies the Tuskens. They were always kind of an unknown race. We didn't understand their motivations, or they were just a mysterious tribe of nomadic sand people. So this show kind of demystifies them a little bit, and I'm not sure if I like that, because I just remember the Tuskens that attacked Luke Skywalker on Tatooine, went to his land speeder, kind of salvaged anything they could out of it, and then were chased off by Obi-Wan pretending to be a crate dragon. Those are the Tuskens I know. But now that we actually have younglings and women and a leader, and they've got a whole tribe system, it just seems like you actually feel empathy for them. They actually face some hardships. There's people attacking them. They're just defending themselves. They actually become empathetic figures instead of just some crazed outlanders that are attacking moisture farmers. So again, I don't know how you feel about that. I did find the story interesting, though, and it actually is good to get a little backstory on the Tusken tribe kind of life. Now, flashing forward to the sequences that are talking about Boba Fett taking over Jabba's crime syndicate. It is cool to go back and see Jabba's palace again. Obviously, there's a lot less aliens in there, so it feels kind of empty. There's a couple of robots, there's a couple of Gamorreans, and obviously Fennec Shand is there. I do find it odd that Jabba's whole palace is pretty empty. There's no menagerie, there's no people there, there's not even a Rancor in the Rancor pit, although the pit is still there and gets used. So that's pretty interesting. I do like that they have the continuity using Tamara Morrison to play Boba Fett. He was obviously Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones. I do like that they have that continuity. Boba's actually a clone of Jango Fett, so it's very obvious they would look exactly the same. So I do like that they have that kind of connection to the original, the prequel trilogy and the canon story. So it's nice to have that actor brought back to play that character. I've watched some other YouTubers basically complain that the show is terrible. Nobody's watching it. Viewership is down. Again, I'm not saying it's as good as The Mandalorian. It is not. But it's interesting. For me, it's a nostalgia thing. I loved this character since I was a kid. So it's nice to see a little more of Boba Fett. But yes, I do agree. It's not the best show in the world. It does have some pacing issues. I like the flashbacks of the story, and there are some little iffy things that they put in there. People are criticizing in episode 3. There's a biker gang that Boba Fett recruits to work for him. People are calling them the Power Rangers on Vespas. I don't know. I mean, they're there. I think the biggest issue with Boba's crime syndicate is that he needs to build a crew, and he's really got nobody. There's nobody at the palace. So hopefully he's going to slowly recruit people to come work for him, and then he'll be just as powerful as Jabba. He's obviously not a bounty hunter anymore. He's going to be a crime lord. So let's talk more about the crime syndicate storyline that's going on, as Boba Fett is trying to gain the respect of the territory that he's taken over from Jabba and then Bib Fortuna. Unfortunately, the mayor is against him. The mayor's working with another syndicate. But then there's also cousins of Jabba, which are now coming to claim the territory. They actually bring a black-furred Wookiee named Chrysanthemum to go after Boba Fett. I've never actually heard of this character before, but I guess he's from the comics. And apparently he has a long backstory. He's even fought Obi-Wan before, which is where he got the scar above his eye. Chrysanthemum's a very thick, large, and imposing Wookiee. Plus, he's got the black fur, which I've only seen brown-furred Wookiees, I think. He doesn't do much in episode 2, but he does come back in episode 3 when Boba Fett is in his Bacta tank, where we see a lot of the flashback sequences when he's sitting in the Bacta tank. There's actually a lot of different factions that are trying to claim the territory that Jabba left behind. The Hutts actually sent Black Chrysanthemum to assassinate Boba Fett while he was sleeping in his Bacta tank, flashing back to his life with the Tusken Raiders. Luckily, a failed attempt because the biker gang that he recruited, the Power Rangers on Vespas, give him some backup, although they didn't seem to be much of a force against Chrysanthemum. He's pretty strong and powerful. They do eventually trap him in the old Rancor dungeon. At the same time, the Hutts show up outside, the twins. They basically want to call a truce. They said it's not worth fighting over the territory. Apparently some other faction is working with the mayor, is claiming the territory as well. They don't want war. They offer Chrysanthemum to Boba Fett, who Boba Fett just releases him. No hard feelings, he says. But the Hutts also offer the gift of a young male Rancor, which Boba now is going to adopt as a pet. So they put him in the dungeon, and now he's going to try to bond with the Rancor. Interesting, you actually felt bad for the Rancor because you saw it chained up and blindfolded. I actually felt bad for it, but we'll see what happens. Apparently it's going to become part of the show and probably an imposing, threatening figure going forward. So interesting. Now, I don't know where the show's going to end up. And again, not the best show in the world, but I find it interesting. I'm enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it ends and seeing how it ties into the larger universe. So I just wanted to say that again. A lot of people are complaining the show is terrible. My opinion is it's not that bad. I'm having fun with it. We'll see how it goes. So now that we talked about the show, let's talk about the drawing that is happening behind me. So I drew this Boba Fett picture in about 5.5 hours. That goes from sketch all the way to finished painting, digital painting. I usually draw characters like this in videos like this from either a front view or a 3/4 view. I was searching the internet for an image to use as a reference. I found this side image of the character and I really liked it, and it's not something I typically do, so I thought I'd try it, and I really liked the way this turned out. Now, years ago, I did create a more traditional Boba Fett drawing. I'll put that up on the screen so you can see it. And this is when I first got my Wacom tablet about 5 or 6 years ago. And this is a more traditional, original Empire Strikes Back type Boba Fett with the same colors. You'll notice when we get to the coloring portion of this video that I'm using the darker colors that Boba Fett's armor is now in this show. I started the drawing by sketching out the pose to map everything out. Once I laid the character out, I started hardlining on a top layer. I always do my sketch layers kind of a 50% opacity, so it's light line, it's underneath. As you've seen in any of my other videos where I do drawing videos like this, I'll start sketching, really quickly on the hardline layer and then cleaning those lines up. It also lets me get the detail laid down quickly because you start out sketchy and then you start adding the detail, but you want the detail to be added in once you start hardlining. So even though I'm on the hardline layer, the lines are still pretty sketchy until I start cleaning them up. Now, the helmet is the most important feature. And the nice thing is in the side view, it's actually much simpler to draw than, because I remember drawing it in the picture that I showed a little while ago. It was much harder to draw at an angle because there's a lot of curves in the mask, in the helmet. The side view actually is much simpler, and I can use the ellipse tool and the stroke to kind of get the curved lines pretty accurate. There are some other interesting aspects. There's the way that the shoulder's prominent, the way the left arm crosses over the chest, and the way that the right arm kind of flexes up with the weapon in hand. And then there's the jetpack also that adds a little detail. Now, if you're interested in how I do my line work, I have done a video on how to improve your line work, especially if you're drawing in Photoshop, because Photoshop is a pixel-based program, so it's hard to get good solid lines in there. But I do have a video, I'll link it in the description below, how I keep really crisp line work when I'm using Photoshop, when I'm drawing on my tablet. So after finalizing the line work, I want to go ahead and paint the character, laying down the flats as I usually do. Again, I'm using the darker colors from when he painted his armor. Now, the original Boba Fett has, and actually you could see right here, he had more of a grayish blue kind of fabric underneath his armor. Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, once he cleans up his armor, he's got more of a black undercloak, and I like that better. I just think it makes the armor look a lot sleeker. When he first gets his armor back in The Mandalorian, it's very chipped, it's very faded, and then you see him in the next episode, and he's obviously cleaned up the armor. Looks brand new paint job on it, but he's got it's a lot darker colors, dark red in the mask and the kind of greenish gray color on the helmet and the armor. So after selecting the colors, I did want to paint on the mythosaur skull sigil, which you'll see on his shoulder. So we'll get that put there. So I actually drew that straight on using a reference to model the sigil. I started it straight up and down, but then I just rotated it into place where it needed to be, and it's got a little kind of a light yellow beigey kind of color as a backdrop. I did a little something with the shadows and highlights. Normally what I do with shadows and highlights is I will select the color, the base color, and then I will select a lighter or darker color based on a shadow or highlight. And then I put those all on separate layers to save time because this drawing was getting really long. Again, 5.5 hours from start to finish. I just used a light, on the very top I used a shadow layer and a highlight layer, and I just used a black or a white with a little bit of opacity to it. So, and just using the polygon marquee, I was able to isolate all the colors, and that turned out to be really good because it actually saves some time and it actually doesn't look bad at all, and I like the way it turned out. The background, I wanted the background to look more like an Imperial, like on the Death Star or on an Imperial ship. So I put the lights in the background. Once I got all the patterns and lights down, the reds and the whites and the black lines, I merged all those layers together, and then I added a blur to them because I really wanted the background to kind of be a little blurry, and I wanted Boba Fett to kind of pop off and with his sharp lines and kind of pop off the background. So here's the final drawing. This will be posted on my Instagram if you want to check it out a little closer at Space Misadventures. Go check it out and follow me there. Tell me about the show. If you have any comments on the show, am I the only one who likes it, or is everybody thinking this is the worst show that was ever made? Put that in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. If you have any comments or questions on the drawing or the drawing process that I used in this video, let me know there as well. Like the video, subscribe to my channel. Sorry it took so long to get my first video out of the year, but it's been a busy start to the year. I do have a lot more content planned, so keep subscribed to get that as it comes out. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time. Have a great day.